Brother Fernando, I would. Ready? Ready? At this time, the mayor will call to order the special city council meeting and workshop for 6 p.m. Thursday, August the 14th of 2025 in City Council Chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas. Have with us on the dais District 2, Donna Renee Anderson, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. We have District 3, Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, and District 4, Stephanie Holmes Thomas. Not with us, but and absent and excused is District 5, Phil Robinson, Mayor Pro Tem. We have a quorum, so we can move forward. Our next item on the agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance, invocation and then Pledge of Allegiance. If you would, please stand and remain standing until after the pledges.
Dear Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for this opportunity to serve our community, Lord. We ask that we keep all of our citizens in mind as we make decisions that's best for the city. We ask you also to give us wisdom and the knowledge that we need to make the best decision possible. Thank you, Lord, for allowing people to serve in this community. We want to pray especially for the first responders, our police officers that work with us to keep us safe. Amen. We are very grateful, Lord. We will always remember to give thanks to you and to your Son, Jesus' name, in which we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right, next on the agenda is mayor and council community recognition and events. Does anybody have any?
I have a town hall coming up this Sunday, August the 17th at 6 p.m. at the Breezy Hill Community Center.
Wonderful, good. So, is that open to all?
It's open to everyone.
Okay.
And I'm happy to say that there's several members from our city staff that will be there, from water quality to public services and city admin.
Wonderful, good job.
And I just want to tease you here. I think that building is now called the Loretta Hickman Gibson Community Center.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Good catch. Anyone else? I do want to say, I think this past Saturday, they had the dueling pianos.
Oh, yes.
Downtown, and I understand that it was well attended. People had a good time, and hopefully we can have more of those events moving forward. In addition to that, you know, our school started, and I've been told by the superintendent that everything has been going smooth, knock on wood. And thanks to all of our police for helping with traffic, our school district's police department for helping with the school traffic and minimizing any issues for our residents in the city of Terrell. Again, you know, they've still got kinks in them, I'm sure, here and there, but be mindful of the fact that you may have kids darting in and out of traffic as you're in and around the school zones, so please be careful. Anything else?
Mayor, I'd like to take this opportunity for those who haven't met him to introduce Bernie Parker. While you all have given me the privilege of sitting in the chair and being interim city manager, I can use some assistance. We talked about that back when I took on the role. And we've brought Bernie on to be the interim assistant city manager to help be a second set of hands and eyes for me and help me with some projects that we have in mind. Bernie, if you want to come up and talk a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Name is Bernie Parker. So I've got about 20 years of experience in local government, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So I've had the opportunity of serving from engineering tech to engineering project coordinator to director of public services, from assistant city manager, from director of economic development. I've had the pleasure of serving in definitely fast-growing communities and understanding the growing pains and challenges that everybody faces. And the good thing is every city within the Metroplex is experiencing the same struggles as far as meeting demands of water, making sure your wastewater is definitely treated, as well as making sure you have firefighters, paramedics, police officers, and qualified staff. So I do appreciate the opportunity to come here and serve the citizens of Terrell, as well as this council, and I appreciate the warm welcome that I have experienced just in my past 4 days. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Bernie? Yes?
Just said welcome.
Okay, yeah, welcome on behalf of the mayor and the council. Looking forward to working with you as we move forward.
Yes, sir.
All right, the next item on the agenda is here remarks from visitors. Do we have any? David, you want to talk? You want to say anything? No? Our next item on the agenda is a business item. It's item 4.1, discuss and consider resolution number 2244, setting a date, time, and location for a public hearing on the proposed tax year 2025 tax rate for the city of Terrell, Texas, directing the city secretary to publish public notice of such public hearing in a newspaper or general circulation and on the city internet website, and providing an effective date. This will be handled by our interim city manager, Mark Mills.
Mayor, council, thank you. Done. I'm doing it, but there's no presentation. That's okay. So this evening, while Dawn's pulling it up, we have to, council needs to set a date for the public hearing on the tax rate. We're going to be asking you to set the public hearing date as Tuesday, August the 26th at 6 p.m. That evening, we will have our budget public hearing and a vote to adopt the budget. We'll have a public hearing on the tax rate that evening, and then we will have a follow-up meeting on the 29th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to take the final vote on the tax rate. State law does not allow us to adopt the tax rate the same night that we have our budget public hearing, so we're having to separate those. Included in the notice that we have to publish, we have to state a proposed tax rate. The proposed tax rate is the highest tax rate that the city council can consider and adopt. So one of the things that I'd like to have a discussion with you all this evening, before I put a number out there that you all will have to pay the political price for and get the phone calls for, I wanted to get a feel from you as to what that proposed tax rate on the notice should be. You're not locked into the rate itself. It is just simply the maximum that you can adopt. That's okay. I can do it without. No, that's okay. So this evening, I'm asking to get some input from you all as far as the proposed tax rate, a challenge slash opportunity that we have, and then to set the date. So currently, our tax rate is 76.42 cents. If, based on the truth in taxation calculations we have done, if you do there we go, that's okay. So this is the notice. I'll kind of backtrack a little bit. And the area that I'm talking about is at the very top of this document, we have to have a proposed tax rate, show the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate. So what I've done on this is an example only. I'm not advocating a 10-cent tax increase. But the proposed tax rate is the highest rate that the city council can consider and adopt. Our voter approval rate, which is what I've set this at, I'll talk about in a second. The no new revenue rate is the tax rate that would generate approximately the same amount of revenue from property that was on the tax rolls in both tax year 24 and tax year 25. And then our voter approval rate is the maximum rate that the city council can adopt without holding a mandatory election. If council were to adopt a rate that is over this number, an automatic election triggers, and then the community would have to vote on it. This is the highest rate that can be adopted without entering into that election process. Essentially, the voter approval rate is a 3.5% increase on your maintenance and operations. But there are a couple of things that I want to make sure you are aware as we go into this this evening. So for fiscal year 25, there are two components to the tax rate. There's a maintenance and operations portion, which funds the general fund, and there's an interest in sinking, INS. It's the principal and interest payments on debt issued by the city. So our general obligation bonds, our tax notes, our certificates of obligation, our utility debt, those types of things. So in FY25, the city adopted a 15-cent per $100 evaluation. So we have a 76.42 cent. Sorry. I'm getting that wrong, am I not? 7642 is our tax rate. Of that tax rate, 15 cents went to pay the principal and interest of our debt. When you look at the truth in taxation calculation that was done last year, the calculation reflected a rate of 1565.18 to cover the principal and interest payments. So when the city adopted a rate of 15 cents, there was a gap between what was adopted and what was needed to cover the principal and interest payments. The FY25 budget also included a transfer of additional funds from the utility fund into the INS number 1 fund to cover debt payments. So what does this mean? So in FY25, based on our truth in taxation calculation, we adopted an INS rate that was 0.0065 cents lower than it needed to be to cover our principal and interest. We're able to make that up. That was not an issue. Also included in FY25 was a transfer from the utility fund. It should have been, based on our debt schedules, $1.8 million was transferred in. So the difference between the adopted INS rate of 15 cents and the 15.6 is a difference of essentially 2/3 of a cent. With the utility transfer, the difference there is 3 cents. So FY25, our full INS rate, had we adopted the truth in taxation number and not had the additional transfer that came over from the utility fund, our full INS rate actually should have been 18.78 cents. We adopted an INS rate of 15 cents, which means we are just shy of 4 cents short on our debt service side. This is about $372,000 in FY25 dollars, so based on value in FY25. When I did the calculation this year based on our existing debt, it is, for tax year 26, the INS rate is 19.2916 cents. So why is it higher? One, we're not intending to do the same transfer from the utility fund, which was about $600,000 that I'm not proposing we do again this year. We issued certificates of obligation in fiscal year 25 to pay for public safety communication equipment and the 2 fire engines. It was roughly $4 million. The annual debt service on that is for fiscal 26, roughly $400,000, just a little over 2 cents. The debt structure impact, which I'll talk about a little bit, is almost a 1 cent increase that is necessary. And then we issued 2 series of refunding bonds. Those were priced yesterday, so I have adjusted the debt schedule for those. By doing those 2 refundings, we've saved approximately $800,000 over the remaining life of those bonds. And it allowed us to bring our INS rate down this year from almost 21 cents to the 19.29. So this is what our debt portfolio looks like. This is not separated by tax-supported and utility-supported. This is just simply our entire debt portfolio. And I went back to 2023. So when I'm talking about the impact of the way we structure our debt, you're going to see a pretty substantial jump in FY23 to FY24. We issued 3 series of bonds in FY23, 23A, 23B, and 23C. So that's the first payment for those was going to be in FY24. Then you see a little bit of a drop off in FY25, but then it starts to spike again in 26 and 27. The way the city issues its debt for the city of Terrell, they typically do what is called level payment. So as we issue bonds, it'll change the top, but you'll see that it kind of slowly falls off into plateaus because the payment structure is level payment. To show you another example, the chart on the right is another organization where they don't do level payment, they do what is called level principal. And what happens there is you satisfy your interest costs much earlier in the issuance. The initial upfront costs can be a little more, but you end up saving interest costs on the back end, and you pay your principal down much faster. You essentially satisfy the vast majority of your interest payments by the time you get halfway. So this is a 20-year bond. By the time you get 10 years through, you've essentially satisfied almost all of your interest. So as we move forward, we'll be discussing this more, but I wanted to show you that the way the city has structured its debt, we're actually seeing an increase from 25 to 26 because of the 24 COs that we issued and because of the way that the previous debt has been structured. So we're seeing a bit of an increase there. So just to recap, the proposed tax rate is the highest tax rate that the city council can adopt after we have our public hearing. So I'm going to be asking you what your level of tolerance for that proposed tax rate is. After budget discussions and the tax rate public hearing, council can adopt any tax rate they wish up to the proposed tax rate. So if we do a proposed tax rate of $1, you can adopt up to $1, but you cannot adopt over $1. If the tax rate that's adopted exceeds the voter approval rate, which is 86.2142, this will trigger a mandatory election. This really is not an option. It is not built into the schedule. The timing would not work if you decided to do that anyway. So some options. Our tax rate currently is 76.42. That is our current tax rate. You can adopt, we can use that as a proposed rate, and you can adopt that. We can have an adopted tax rate less than the 76.42, again, regardless, as long as it is under our proposed tax rate. And or you can adopt a tax rate above the 76.42, in which case you're raising the tax rate. But it could not exceed, in this case, the 86.2142, which is the rollback rate, or the voter approval rate. Sorry, they've changed the name. Or the proposed tax rate. So if you have a proposed tax rate of 79 cents, the highest rate you could consider and vote on would be the 79 cents. Going back, we got information from the county, which does our collections. They projected for this year and next year a collection rate of 98.17%. Based on that, a 1 cent increase or decrease to the tax rate generates additional revenue or savings of $206,000. If we were to adopt our no new revenue rate at 74.1085, using the fully loaded 19 cent INS rate, it would actually cause us to lose about $424,000 in revenue for maintenance and operations, which is what funds the general fund. If we were to adopt our current tax rate of 76.42 cents, it would add roughly $54,000 to maintenance and operations, additional revenue to the general fund. If we went to the highest rate we could possibly adopt without triggering an election, it would be almost $2.1 million in additional revenue. So for ease of comparison, I put a 77 cent tax rate out here because it was a nice round number. If we did a 77 cent tax rate, that would generate $174,000. If you want to go up or down on that, it's easier to add the $206,000 to that. So if you adopt 77 cents, it's $174,000. If you adopt 78,000, it would be $380,000. So trying to make the math a little easier there. Because I have to put a proposed tax rate on the notice, I did not want to put a notice out there that showed a proposed tax rate of 86 cents, which is the maximum we can adopt, if council did not have any interest in doing that. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend that we do that. But I wanted to, because you all will get the emails and the phone calls, I wanted you to understand what the proposed rate is, what the proposed rate means, and what your tolerance for the proposed tax rate would be. 76, 76.42, 77, 81. I want to make sure that I understand the level of comfort you have in us putting a number out there, a realistic number out there, and not just saying everything. But if you're comfortable with that, we can do it. That doesn't mean you're locked into that 86 cents. You can't adopt above that number. The other thing I need a little bit of direction on is the debt service. As I mentioned, our debt service rate really should at this point be 19.29 cents. We can lower that number by utilizing INS reserves. We have some reserves in INS that we can use to draw that money down, to draw that balance down, so it's less than 19 cents. We can do it from other we can do it from general fund reserves. We can do it from other sources. The problem with doing that is we're essentially kicking the can down the road. It is a one-time fix. So if I go back to this chart, we have an increase going from 25 into 26. We also have an increase going from 26 to 27. So if we utilize reserves to pull down that 19-cent tax rate for INS, that fixes 26, but it compounds the problem for 27. Because not only do we have to make up the difference moving from 26 to 27, we have to make up the difference of the one-time money that we use because it's not a recurring source. So we would have to basically not only increase to catch up from 26 to 27, but catch up on what other funds we use to supplement that 19 cents.
I have a question. May
Yes.
I ask a question?
Absolutely.
The utility fund
Yes.
is the fund that we use to take care of INS?
No, so
No.
we have
I-
two
that-
INS
That
funds.
is, utility is water, wastewater,
Yes,
all of
ma'am.
that. Why would we transfer money out of that fund into something else?
There were bonds issued years ago where a portion of it was paid for utility projects, and it's paid out of the utility fund. We have two INS funds, and we're still working on making sure that we're cleaning that up. INS fund number one, and I come out of organizations where we didn't have multiple INS funds. INS fund, the way it's been treated here is essentially the tax supported. So that's the interest and sinking that comes from property tax. INS 2 is the one that is typically funded from other sources, like your utility fund. When you issue utility debt, it goes to pay the debt service for that. So on my chart, it's all debt service. It's both the INS property tax supported as well as the utility fund supported. I did not break it apart for this evening.
Okay.
But the utility fund, when it issues debt for projects, it's responsible for paying its portion of the debt.
Okay. And so the transfer, so that money that was transferred out was all right to transfer that money out?
Of the 1.8 million that was transferred, 1.2 million dollars of that was utility debt. There appears to be a property tax supported portion of 2 or 3 bonds, I can't remember off the top of my head, that had a property tax supported component. The utility fund covered that to a tune of about $607,000.
And, okay, based on my little bit of knowledge, property tax is not water.
Property tax is not water.
And so the utility fund should not have paid for that.
I don't believe the utility fund should have paid that additional $607,000, but that's the way our debt number was structured last year. So again, going back, we adopted 15 cents, but it really should have been 18.78 cents had we not had that transfer from the utility not occurred, and had we adopted the 15.6 cents that was actually included in the calculation.
Okay, so now, with my little bit of knowledge, 1 cent equals $206,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have not raised our debt ceiling, our tax rate for a long time.
In 6 or 7 years that the rate has been 76.42.
And if our July workshop is an indicator of what's to come and what we are focusing on as a council for our city, we need to contemplate raising the tax rate to something that is palatable. Is that correct? That's what I'm looking at?
That is correct.
So
That would be y'all's decision
you're
after our
77
August 22nd workshop.
Okay, so 77, but today, we just need to come up with a number.
I need to know what your tolerance level is, because you're going to get the phone calls again. It's not necessarily what you're going to adopt, it's the highest that can be considered and adopted.
Okay, so you gave us a formula. The tax rate is on this side, and the property taxes are on this side. Is that correct?
You have values on one side
Value.
and tax rate on the other.
Tax- And the tax rate is what gets us the additional maintenance and operation revenue.
So there are two components to the tax rate, and there are two components to the equation, okay? The equation is property values, which is set by the appraisal district. And then we apply the tax rate to those values to come up with our property tax revenue.
Okay, so in my little mind, if we raise the tax rate, we're raising this other end. This goes up too.
No, ma'am. Think of it as, so if you are keeping everything level, think of it in terms of a seesaw. If
Okay.
values go up, your tax rate goes down to keep revenue level. If your values go up, if your values go down to generate the same amount of revenue,
Tax rate
As I-
needs to go up.
in the microphone, the tax rate would need to go
Oh,
up.
okay.
Now, if you're
So,
trying to generate additional revenue, values go up, it's what level of comfort council has on the rate side. The rate side of the equation is the portion of the equation that you control. And then of the tax rate, there's the maintenance and operation portion, which is the general fund portion, and then the INS portion, which is the tax-supported principal and interest payments for our debt.
well, if we talked about what we talked about, I'm gonna say we raise the tax rate.
So, yeah, and I'm good with that if that's the will of the council. But, so, for the first time in a long time, the council has been asked before some of these decisions have been made. What past councils looked at was, I don't want to increase the tax rate for our residents. We want to keep it at 7.642. So in order to do that, to say that we're going to keep it at 7.642, we were betting that the valuations were going to go up to make the difference in the revenue that was needed to continue the service at the level at which the city was providing currently. And so that has worked out. I think it might possibly work out again if we stay at the 7.642. However, I meant Mark needs to do more work. We're being asked beforehand what our thoughts are. We haven't done that in the past. Our request to the management at that time was to keep it at 76.42 and not drop any level of service. And so that was how that was done.
Well,
I'm at a point about listening to each of you speak weekly, and I know how you want to be transparent. In order to be transparent with the citizens is to say, look, the highest rate that we can go without a vote is
86.21.
86.2142. You put that out there. That's the highest that we can go without. And then let's work it back down and say, look, we could have, when they say, well, you did 77, yeah, but we could have done 86.2142. But we didn't. We did 77. And that's only an increase of, what, 4? No.
77 is less than a penny.
Yeah, less than a penny. But again, Mark's different than our previous city manager, so he's wanting our input. But he is right, you're probably gonna get a lot of calls. What is wrong with the city? Why are you going up to 86.24?
How does that, what does increasing the tax rate do to a property owner and a business owner? Does it, how does it affect them?
Well, nobody likes paying more taxes.
Is it going to be an increase, because they've already had an increase in taxes?
And, well, and here's
Am I
the other
correct?
thing. I don't think we've had the discussion on, are we gonna need to increase our water rates or our sewer rates or
That'll be
any
the
of that?
council meeting on the 19th.
That's another,
Now, we've already had that conversation.
I know, but we're gonna have it again, and we're gonna have to set something there, so you gotta balance out. Do we wanna keep the tax rate at, or give Mark the direction to do what he can, with the finances in the city to keep us at 76.42? Are we contemplating maybe raising a little bit? Again, those are questions that we have to ask ourselves on the council and then give direction to Mark so that he knows. But tonight, he is asking, like, what number do you want to max it at?
Okay, so it's going to, my question is, it's going to affect homeowners and business owners,
Yes.
and it's going to raise their taxes again. That's what we're talking about.
Well,
But we have residents in my district, I'm sure in everyone else's district, that want us to increase our level of service.
in order to do so,
And
you
to
have to,
order to do that, I'm gonna need 2 cents.
yes. That's true.
I like to round my numbers up.
Mhm.
So if it's 76.76, then I know 0.86 is high, but anything below that, I think, should be talked about. But I think for the level of service, because our population is increasing, and we are stressing our infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, I'm talking about water, pipes,
Right.
manholes. These are things that need to get done. And we talked about caring for our employees. These are things these to provide the level of service, I think, means we need to consider increasing the tax rate.
That's the number you put in the paper, what we're considering. Because I'm of the mindset of, hey, work backwards. What is that gonna get you? Is the 2 cent gonna get you $412,000?
Yes, sir.
So how much is that 412,000 gonna increase service this year? Or maybe the other option is say, you know what? We're gonna work within our budget at 7642, get the best level of service we can, delay any increase, because we know that we've got some other fees that are gonna be going up. Because if you go up on your fees, whether they're water, sewer, or trash pickup, whatever it may be, we increase those costs to the citizens, they're not gonna want their tax rates, the rate to go up. And we still may benefit a little bit because we don't know what the values are gonna be when they come in.
Okay, now there's that other number, the 18 cents? Was it the 19 cents?
That's INS rate.
So the yellow is a good thing,
The yellow is just a highlight.
so it should be .19 that we want to,
Yeah, when we adopted last year, we adopted 15 cents.
but
The
it
rate-
should have been 19.
It should, the rate itself, based on the calculation, should have been 15.6, but because there was an other funding source for, when you do the truth in taxation calculation, there is a place for other funding sources. Instead of that reflecting the utility fund supported INS, it was the fully loaded utility and tax portion that came over from the utility fund.
But I would say, hey, that's 7642 number, is, the 15 cent is inclusive of that, right?
Yes, sir.
So it's in there. So if we wanted to adjust the 7642, we could still take some pennies there and make it 19.
But
And that would make our M and O a little bit
Because it-
smaller, but we still maintain the
yeah,
same
But it should have
tax
been
rate.
18. It should have been 18, right? So now we want to give them another penny. So we want to, wow.
We want to keep the options out there. Know that there's a lot of ways that you can get there. I never have micromanaged the city manager. I'd prefer to say, this is what we were trying, this is what our goal is to maintain the 7642. You work it out how we can do that and structure it so that INS and M&O are in line. And then we adjust, you
And I
know.
won't present a budget to you that is 86 cents. I simply won't do that. It's unreasonable, but it's the highest that you can adopt. But right now, if we were to adopt the 7642 and keep the 19-cent rate without some sort of adjustment, we'd generate about $54,000 in additional revenue on top of the cuts that Tracy and I have been looking at making.
Okay, well, I'm saying we should look at increasing the tax rate.
Well, then,
At
what,
least
at what
having a
number do you
cover.
want to publish? And, hey, we're having an open discussion, so at any time, oh,
You know,
You're next.
publishing, I mean, it's going to be available for 2 to 3 weeks, so we'll get phone calls for 2 to 3 weeks. You might see some social media for those that are listening, and maybe posting this information afterwards on the different non-City of Terrell official web pages. I hope that they would include that it's a proposed 0.86 to 142 that we would increase, but that's not the amount that we're deciding on at this moment. So what I'm hearing is, really we need to be at that 0.19 something, something, something for INS rate, which means that we're going to, if we stay at the same tax rate for M&O, that it's gonna eat some of our M&O because it's what we gave some, not gave some, but it should have been there last year, right? 0.19 versus 0.18, which means that we would lose 424,000 in revenue.
That's only if you
So-
adopt the no new revenue rate, which is the 74 cents.
So regardless, we're still getting an increase of
54, yep.
without increasing the tax rate.
Correct.
And still, for lack of a better word, making us whole on the INS rate, the DEP rate. We're
correct.
still getting an increase of $54,000 from residents and community members through property tax. So their taxes are still, to a certain extent, increasing because we're not decreasing our tax rate. I don't know today, and that's not what we're voting on today, right? What that final tax
No.
rate should be.
We'll have a tax rate public hearing on August the 26th, and then a vote on August the 29th, at which point we can conduct a second public hearing on the tax rate. We have the workshop on August the 22nd, and as a result of that, we'll know what is included in the budget, what is not included in the budget, what the tax rate to support it is. We very well may come in at 76.42 cents. It will be a matter of what council's priorities are and what they want to add to the budget, or what they want to take out of the budget.
And so, for me, I think there needs to be a balance of, I don't want us to always look at, well, we need funds, we're just gonna increase the budget, right, or the tax rate. I know we had a conversation at the last budget retreat about, okay, are we doing an inventory on our assets? Is there anything that we can sell? Are we comfortable with doing COs in the near future? Are we comfortable with doing a bond election in the future? How many new homes do we expect to be built, or, businesses that can add to the tax rolls in the next, 1 to 3, 5 years? And what does that tell us about, how much funding we're gonna really need and the level of service we want to provide? So I think that's my way of saying that there's different variables, and I wanna make sure that we have the whole picture versus just saying, well, let's increase the tax rate, and not do some of the work behind the scenes.
And those are future meetings. That's the meeting on the 22nd, the meeting on the 26th. But before I put out a proposed tax rate, again, not the tax rate you're going to necessarily vote on, it's just the highest that you can consider. I needed to get you all's input, because if I put an 86-cent tax rate out there, you're all are going to get phone calls and you're going to be calling me trying to figure out how I went insane in what I've done.
And you know what? I think that phone call gives you an opportunity to discuss with your constituents, hey, what is it that you want the city, this is the maximum we can do, but we're gonna work back from that. But what would you suggest the council do? Add increased services to the level of the 84 cent? Is that which one are you, or 86 cent? Or would you rather us maintain the level of service that we're providing? You're okay with that for a year or two until we can get some more inventory in housing and industrial, because Amazon will be on soon, operating within a year, right?
At least a year.
At least a year, but that's gonna help a little bit. And then the other projects that we've got coming on will also help a little bit. And it opens up the discussion. But I'm kind of with Mark. You're gonna get calls if we go to 86-2142. But, you know,
I just
I'm
want,
termed out.
I just want to clarify a few things.
Yes.
So property values and tax rate determine how much our citizens pay.
Yes.
So if the property rate goes up
The value of property goes up.
and we never went up on the tax rate, the citizens are still paying more.
Yes.
If the tax rate goes up, but the property value stays the same, the citizens are still paying more taxes.
Yes.
Okay. I know it's been a crazy shift the last 5 or 6 years with our property values. There was no adjustment for that. If the values went up 10 times, 4 times, there has been no adjustment on that tax rate. So I understand how, when both of them go up, it hurts. So my question is, do you have any idea, when we look at the CAD or the Kaufman County Appraisal District, what our rates have gone up as far as our property values? Has it gone up a certain percentage? Is that 2%? Is that 10, just on
I
average?
don't have it tonight, but I'll provide that to you.
I'd like to know that so I can make a better decision, kind of what the tax values have done. But I can tell you what they've done in the last 6 years, because I've lived it. So, to be clear, if we keep it at the 7642, we can provide the same level of service.
Yes, but you cannot hire 7 additional firefighters. You cannot hire 3 additional police officers. You cannot give compensation increases to staff.
That's gonna be a problem. What, in the 77 cents per hundred will get us an increase of 174,000?
Say that again.
The 77, if we move up to the .58, a little more than a half cents more per hundred, we'll have a surplus of the 174?
That'll get you 174, and then just for comparison purpose, 1 cent up or down from there is an adjustment of $206,000.
So if you wanted to go 2 cents, it would be 412.
So this is gonna be, even when I look at hiring those firefighters and police,
That's not
the
enough.
174 is still not gonna do that.
The 174 wouldn't do it, but if you'll remember that our July work session, we've identified funds in the general fund budget that we're going to be able to come down to give you all some additional money to work with.
Okay.
Is staff going to recommend, at some point, staff will make a recommendation as to the tax rate?
Staff will present a general fund to you that provides the same level of service in FY '26 as it was provided in FY '25 at FY '26 costs. And then we will make proposals of what to add to the budget, and it'll have a tax rate next to it so that you know that if you add $206,000 worth of expense, that's a penny. If you take $206,000 of expense out, that's a penny. And we won't do it based on the current tax rate. We will do it at whatever tax rate expected to be lower to provide the same level of service. So if we come back and say, okay, general fund is going to be X dollars and we need a tax rate of 74 cents to support that, then we will also have a proposal underneath here, the things to be added to the budget and the cost in terms of tax rate. And that way we can essentially play a game of Tetris and plug things in, take them out, move them around.
Okay.
So we're taking care of the problem with the 4.2 or whatever we were a little short on last year?
We're absorbing that in the tax rate, yes.
We're
ma'am.
absorbing that this year?
We're absorbing it this year because if you want me to adjust it and bring it down lower than 19 cents, I can. But the problem is we're kicking the can down the road, and whatever the increase is next year, I need that plus whatever one-time money I use this year. And I'm trying to avoid doing that.
And remember Mark had mentioned that he's wanting to move over to a different way of servicing our debt where we're, we're buying all the interest down, which I think,
That would be the new
be
issues
smart.
or any refundings we do. The existing, I couldn't do it on until we refund it.
I think that's smart
I'm
for us.
just
to move forward.
curious, and this may be thinking ahead, but how fast could we get to that
Transition.
transition?
Well, the next time we issue COs or general obligation bonds, we would do that. And then any opportunities that we have to refund where we're actually going to generate savings, we would look at doing it the same way. We did, the way Terrell has done it historically is the way we did our refunding bonds this time. But again, we had very favorable results. We had a 3.1% interest on the non-taxable and 5.1 on the taxable that we did. And we saved ourselves about $795,000 over the remaining life of those bonds. And that helped bring that 19 down. It was almost 21 cents.
How is Senator Betancourt's legislation going to impact this?
What it would do is, if you look at that 862142 number, the way the calculation works, we can't go up more than 2.5% on maintenance and operations, excluding new construction. We can go up no more than 3.5%, excluding new construction. His bill is back to what one of his original proposals, which was 2.5%.
And when we say current, if we keep it at 76.42, does that even add like the new bills we've had, the residential and the?
The 76, so we have appraised value, taxable value of $2.1 billion. When you apply the 7642 tax rate to it, and you use the 19-cent tax rate for INS, what is left over is the 54,000. Yes, it includes the new construction and the current values. We got those from the appraisal district last week of July.
Not to put you on the spot, but based on your expertise and just being an interim city manager, looking at everything as a whole, what would you propose?
We're still going through and identifying some areas where we can identify some savings. I think we've done a fairly good job. What I presented to you all at the July, I don't remember the date, the work session that we had, it was actually the August work session, August the 5th. We've basically reclaimed about $500,000 from the general fund. So you have $500,000 to work with. We're still looking and trying to find some more. We think we can find some additional funds.
So my question to the council is,
Did you answer my question?
I don't think you did.
I do want to give you
applause.
an ovation actually on us. to
Hey,
have
he
people
knows,
say
he
that,
knows.
but I
So-
see you didn't answer my question.
Well, I didn't get a chance to.
Oh,
So here's my question to the council. Here's my question to the council. Do you see any way that you would support a 4-cent increase in taxes?
Meaning what?
That means we would go from 86 to, from 76 to 80 for 2.
I can see us doing that after
can?
July. Well, no.
Well, no.
No,
We're gonna
no.
have to set our tax rate before.
No. I'm saying I am for an increase in the tax rate. I think 80 cent, 0.80 is a little high. I like the 0.77 or the 0.78.
Well, again, because we need a tax rate that we can publish in the paper. Are you comfortable, well, let me ask this, are you comfortable publishing 862142? And just telling people when they call you, hey, we did the highest possible number, but we're gonna work back from that number to get as close as we can to our current tax rate. That's what I'm asking. Or if you want to put 802142, and knowing that we're probably not going to do that we're going to try to get closer to current, but it's not going to generate as much social media
I just know I would not support the 86.21, so why publish it?
Which is why
That's-
I'm asking.
That's
'cause
my
I-
thinking.
I don't want to put you in a
Right.
place where you're uncomfortable
Okay,
with me
well,
putting a number out.
Again, so I'm trying to find that number that we think we might get to.
I can get
And
to
work
80
back.
and
You can
work
get to
back.
80. All right, so that's a starting point. Does anybody think it should be more than 80?
I'm sorry, Mayor. I am remembering the young man at the refuse center and the comments I made about his work conditions. I'm concerned about the firefighters. We're gonna get another engine or a truck, whatever they call it. And I'm thinking of those things and what this means. I'm thinking about our commitment to new pipes on Bryn. And, tearing it down, laying the pipe, the manholes, all of that, and then putting the road over it. That's gonna cost some money.
Yeah, I don't think
And
that's
so
still a.
I'm willing to say as a number, 0.80, and we can negotiate down.
All right, but-
When we put those things up there, those are the things that I'm thinking of.
Again, my goal here is to get at a number that we know we won't exceed. So if we go to 80, we can't do 81, but we can do 79. So if we said 82, we could come down to 81 or 80, but we can't go to 80.
Right.
Right? So I'm trying to get that number where everybody's comfortable with that, yeah, we may do that, or we may be less, but we won't be higher.
Well, if we
Right.
do the 0.80, that'll, if I did my calculations here right, that should get us $430,000.
Yeah, and so $430,000 in today's market will get you what?
And that's including the half a million that, did you say half a million, or actually, I only added 50,000.
Okay.
I thought it was 50.
Oh, I mean, so these are the discussions that we're gonna have post setting the tax
Right.
rate. But I want you to be comfortable. I don't want you to come back and say, Mayor, I wish we'd have done 81, or I wish we would have done 83. That's why I'm saying, go ahead and put it out there at 86, and we're gonna tell them, hey, that's not the number, but that was what we had to, if we're gonna be truthful to our citizens, that's the highest number that we could adopt without them voting on it.
Right.
So do we want them to know that, number one? And number two, do we want them to know that we did our best to back away from it, and we settled at, maybe it is 7642, it was the number we had to be at.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to get that answer, but I didn't. I mean, I'm okay if we set it at the 86.2, and we just take the heat. I'm okay with taking the heat and the calls, but I will not support that number.
Right. And that's good for you to tell them. I mean, that's what you want to tell them.
Yeah, if
I
you're
think
saying-
so from the mayor's position too.
Like,
We're not going to, but by law, that's the highest that we could go.
Yeah.
And to be truthful and to be transparent, which I feel like some of our residents feel like we haven't in the past, that's being transparent.
Why don't we do 78?
We just can't go up if we needed to.
You won't be
but I
able to
don't
go
think
up.
we
You won't go
would.
to 80. I heard somebody down here say 80, but you can't get to 80 if you do 76.
I mean, I'm really confident in Mark continuing
am.
to find some money. We have a budget, and Tracy, we have a budget retreat coming up, which will help outline, like, even if we wanted to tackle some really big projects, we still have to go through the work of prioritizing the projects and figuring out how much they're going to cost for this
And
year.
some of them have to be engineered before you can get the work done, so the money can come in fiscal year 26, 27.
And I hate that we have to, I mean, when we say a good, the same level of service, I want it to be, I want us to increase the level of
We wanna do better.
service, but because we haven't done what I would consider the full planning to get us there,
Right.
but our staff would still have the tools to, if there's a break, then they can get to that break.
Okay, are we good? So here's the deal. We're gonna need a motion, resolution number 2242, At that time, we will set the time, the location, the public hearing, and the proposed tax rate. So in your motion to approve Resolution 2244, do it with the tax rate set at, and you fill in the blank. Is that okay? Can we do that?
I would be okay with that.
Okay,
And
Say
here's,
the motion to what?
here's the
yes.
motion, if you would like to use.
Oh, okay, here's
If
the
you'd like to
motion.
leave this, here's a motion, and once we have read the motion, if I can get someone to read that aloud, so that we announce it publicly.
Okay. So when you approve resolution number 2242, setting the date, time, and location of the public hearing at the proposed rate of, or proposed tax year 2025 tax rate of, for the city of Terrell, Texas. Is that a typo on there?
Yes.
Okay, I just read. Directing the city secretary to publish notice of such public hearing in a newspaper or of general circulation on the city internet website, and providing an effective date. If you'll do that, and then if you'll go to the next one, I'll read that one.
I have a
Leave it there, though, until I get the first and the second. Yes.
I got one more question.
Yes.
for Mark. You don't see anything that would be a red flag or something that we would be potentially needing more than a 2 or 3%, a 2 or 3% increase? Because I just want to make sure we have that cushion.
Throughout my career, there is always more need than there is funding.
Of course.
And it's a matter of managing that. The biggest thing that we must fund is the additional firefighters to staff Station 3. Other than that, everything else is council discretion.
And what was that cost?
It was, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, it's roughly $780,000.
$780,000. And Mark, what you showed me just a few minutes ago was that if we stay where we're at, plus the funds that you found, plus the $54,000, we're already at a 1.3.
No, that was at 80 cents.
What, oh, at 80 cents, okay.
What I can tell you, though,
81 then,
what I can tell the council is that,
You can always back off if you want to.
700.
yeah, but let me be clear about where Mark is and Tracy and everybody else in the organization is currently, is that the conversations I've had with Mark goes like, where can we find efficiency to generate, or to help with our finances? Because we're not efficient as I think we can be, which is gonna help reduce some of our cost. And that's gonna help us too moving forward. I think it all comes together, and there's not a whole lot of pressure right now. We just wanted to make sure in this to be truthful to our residents, that we won't go over that number, and then work our way back.
Okay, Mark, if you get that number for sure about the property values, or about the percentages going up, you think, and then I'm comfortable with proposing an increase. And just knowing what we need for our firefighters, that helps me get to that top number, and police.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
roughly,
Okay.
roughly $780,000 for the firefighters, roughly $450,000 for the police office, 3 police officers.
And does Chief LaCroix have that much money in his budget currently?
No, ma'am. The